Good morning, everybody. It's 10 a.m. We'll call to order our Board of Commissioners meeting. We hope everybody has a Merry Christmas in a few days, and we look forward to one more meeting after this one before our 2021 business concludes. So would you please rise with us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we will accept public comment for items that are not appearing on today's agenda, and we will also accept public comment for items that do appear on the agenda when they're under consideration. Is there any public comment at this time? Okay, we are seeing none. Are there any additions needed to our agenda today? Okay, hearing none, we will move forward with some meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes from the Board of Commissioners work session and meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Okay, we'll welcome up Ray to discuss a affordable housing study assessment that we're looking at doing. So good morning, Ray.
Great, thank you, Commissioners. Back on November 4th, the Board of Commissioners accepted a proposal from Mullen and Lonergan to perform what we're calling the solutions-based housing study to look at housing trends and look at some solutions to some of the housing issues within Center County. Today we're asking the Commissioners to consider a contract with Northeast and Bucks Company, also known as Mullen and Lonergan, to assist developing the Center County Solutions-Based Affordable Housing Study. The contract total is $71,330 and funded through the American Rescue Plan Act. We've had that contract reviewed by the county solicitor, and Kim Stank also gave some input on that with Margaret, and we've had Mullen and Lonergan execute that and now asking the Commissioners to do so.
Thank you, Ray. We had a productive meeting with the Center County Association of Realtors last week. The commissioners were all in attendance and discussed this, and you reported to them that this was happening. I think they offered some good feedback about this, and they were interested in being a stakeholder. I think they're, in fact, listed as a stakeholder directly in the proposal that Mullen and Lonergan gave to us. So this will be a really helpful approach as we go into the new year. So thank you, Ray, for presenting. Any other comments or questions? Okay.
Our other partner
please,
is also Center Region Planning Agency with Jim May. They've avoided doing the study, knowing that the county is going to be doing that, so we want to include him as a partner as well.
Excellent, absolutely, yes. And Jim was there representing
Yes.
the Center Region as well, so, at the meeting last week. Okay. We look for a motion then.
Motion to add the contract with Northeast and Bucks Company, T.A. Mullen and Lonergan, Inc., to next week's consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
And we'll turn it over to Margaret at this time for a MOU, or I'm sorry, an amendment to an agreement that we have with the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau.
So same idea here, just a different program area. This, several weeks ago, Board of Commissioners approved Phase 2 of...
Yeah, it is green. Yeah, it is green. Yeah.
You want me to put it closer? Does that help? Okay,
We can
how
hear
about
it.
that?
Yeah.
I can hear it great.
Okay. Sorry, Margaret.
It was green, yeah.
It was green. We saw that, yes.
So several weeks ago, the Board of Commissioners approved Phase 2 of a tourism grant to the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau in the amount of $250,000 to be provided from ARPA funds. This item today is the amendment to our contract with Happy Valley Adventure Bureau to execute that agreement. It's been reviewed by our solicitor and signed by the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau, and this just puts the final piece together so that we can get that check out to the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau.
Okay. Thank you, Margaret. Any comments or feedback? Questions?
First shot was very successful. Hopefully the second $250,000 will assist our local small businesses and tourism-based companies. Obviously, we're about to enter a very slow period tourism-wise here in Center County, so happy to help them out.
Okay. So we'll look for a motion for the agreement.
Motion to authorize the agreement with the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion has carried. Thank you, Margaret. Okay, we'll welcome up Kendra Mickness, our court administrator, and we're going to talk about our annual court-appointed counsel. Good morning, Kendra.
Good morning. This is Standard contract for the 7 attorneys that we have that are court-appointed. We actually have 3 new attorneys that will be joining us. We had 3 resign off of the contract. The attorneys that we have are Attorney Andrew Carson, Stephanie Cooper, Helen Stalinas, Ronald McLaughlin, Stephen Trialonis, Charlie Kroboth, and Julian Allett. The contract is for a year. Each of these attorneys will receive $18,750 that'll be divided equally monthly, but the contract totals $131,250. The attorneys have 25 cases. If they go above 25 cases, then it's $750 a case. But we haven't changed the cost, so it's just the same as it has been the previous years.
Thank you, Kendra. Oh, please, no, please.
Traditionally, do each one of these attorneys do 25 cases or handle 25 cases every year
And go over?
and go over?
Yes.
Okay, how much do they go over typically?
It just depends. So we go on availability of the attorney. So you may have an attorney that goes over by 5 cases. You may have an attorney that goes over by 10 cases because they were available for that matter. I would say probably 5 to 10 is what your average over, but it depends on the court appointments.
Over all 7?
Over 25.
Yeah, but I mean, all 7 attorneys handle 5 extra cases, is that?
Yeah, between probably 5 and 10.
Okay. I'm just trying to get a
Sure, yeah, absolutely, okay. All right, any other comments or questions? Okay, we'd look for a motion.
Motion to add the attorney contracts for court-appointed counsel to next week's consent agenda.
second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any final comments? Okay, hearing and seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 The motion is carried. Thank you,
Thank
Kendra.
you.
Thank you. All right, and we'll turn it back to Margaret for the items under risk management and workplace operations.
Okay, thanks very much. I'm reporting for Krista Davis this morning. The first item relates to our workers' compensation insurance. Last week, the renewal for this policy with PMA was presented to you all, and this item is the standard agreement that follows that foundational agreement between PMA and the county. This is a deductible reimbursement and security agreement, and it outlines our choice, the county's choice for a large deductible for our claims, and it confirms that we are in fact solvent to pay for claims if necessary, and there is an irrevocable letter of credit from M&T Bank that goes along with this that confirms that fact. So this is something that we do every year.
Okay, and I believe we also on our consent agenda have the actual renewal of the policy, and so
That's
these
correct.
are sort of going hand in hand, so, okay. We look for a motion.
Sure. Motion to add the deductible reimbursement and security agreement with PMA to next week's consent agenda.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 The motion is carried.
The next 3 items all relate to cleaning and maintenance services for our MDJ offices. The first one is a contract renewal with Jamie Preskovich for cleaning services for 4 of our MDJ offices. The contract total is $19,240 for the period of January 1st, 2022 through December 31st of 2022. Second is a contract renewal with Thompson Contracting for snow removal and lawn maintenance at the Phillipsburg MDJ office. The contract total is not to exceed $8,060 for the period of January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022. Of course, that is not to exceed because we're not sure exactly how many times snow removal is necessary. So that's the reason for it being constructed as it is. Third is a contract renewal with Craig Homan for just lawn maintenance at the MDJ Center Hall location. The contract total is not to exceed $1,300 for the period also of January 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022.
All right, thank you, Margaret.
So if you would
Yeah,
scratch the snow removal, it's just
Scratch.
lawn maintenance.
Who's doing the
Okay.
snow removal?
okay.
We will have that contract on next Tuesday's agenda. There is a contract in the works for snow removal there. I do not know the name.
So as long as we have somebody lined up, I guess.
We do have someone.
Okay. All right, thank you, Margaret. Any questions or comments on this? Okay. Is there a motion?
Motion to add the contract renewals with Jamie Preskovich, Thompson Contracting, and Craig Homan to next week's consent agenda.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Okay. And then we do have an engagement letter with PFM to discuss as well.
Yes. As you are well aware, the Board of Commissioners is considering options to move forward with the renovation of Centercrest, and as a part of that process, looking at different ways of financing those renovation costs. This morning in front of you is an engagement letter with PFM advisors for them to act as our financial advisor and to provide, upon request of us, services related to debt transactions. They did provide a scope of work, which is quite extensive. I'll just read a couple of the items so that you can get a sense of the type of services that they would be providing to the county. They will analyze financial and economic factors to determine if the issuance of bonds is appropriate. They will develop a financing plan in concert with the county, which would include recommendations as to the timing and number of series of bonds to be issued. They would assist us in recommending the best method of sale, either as a negotiated sale, private placement, or a public sale. They would advise as to the various financing alternatives available to the county and develop alternatives related to debt transaction, including the evaluation of revenues available, maturity schedule, and cash flow requirements. So it's quite an extensive list of scope of services. We are quite familiar with PFM, having used them previously and having them on retainer for basic financial services. The cost of this is not included because their fees are wrapped into whatever financing mechanism you choose, and since we don't know what that is at this point in time, it's not able to be included in the agreement, but that will be addressed at a future point in time. So the term of this is for the period of December 15th, 2021 through December 31st, 2022.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions, feedback, or comments? We had just a note, we did have an introductory call or a virtual call with them a few weeks ago, and essentially we're at historic rates, low rates when it comes to this type of borrowing, and we only know that it's going to go up. So this is really, time is of the essence here, and so it's great that they're able to move very quickly on this, and this just puts certain parameters in place that we can move forward, and you know, if we go out for more debt, this will allow us to move speedily. So thank you. Okay, and so we would look for a motion then for the engagement letter.
Motion to approve the engagement letter with PFM Financial Advisors, LLC.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried.
So
Okay.
the second item is related, and this is requesting approval to solicit a request for qualifications for bond counsel services. So the next step in consideration of financing for any type of renovation is for us to secure bond counsel. Bond counsel needs to advise us about the tax implications of different types of financial mechanisms. PFM will go out on our behalf, request proposals from different bond counsel, bring it back to you for your review and approval, and do this very quickly and have something back to you by January the 7th. They just need approval to move forward on behalf of the county.
Okay, great. Thank you, Margaret. Would it be a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the solicitation of a request for qualification for bond counsel services.
I'll second that.
All right, been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much, Margaret. And then we'll head into the opioid settlement discussion.
Okay. So I'm going to start by providing some background and then turn it over to our solicitor, Betsy Dupuy, who will walk you through the 5 different items that are listed here on your agenda today. As you are aware, 2 proposed nationwide settlement agreements have been reached that would resolve all of the opioid litigation brought by states and local political subdivisions against multiple pharmaceutical distributors. We refer to the 2 as the distributor settlement and the J&J settlement. Each of these proposed settlements has 2 participation steps. First, each state decides whether to participate in the settlement, and Pennsylvania has chosen to do so, and they have joined both settlements. And the second step is that subdivisions within each participating state must then decide whether to participate in the settlements. So Pennsylvania's Attorney General has been a part of these negotiations, and he's now issued guidance and instructions to the subdivisions for future steps. A trust will be established by the court, and it will allocate funds and monies determined through an allocation formula to counties, because counties are designated as single county authorities, SCAs, and they are the ones who coordinate drug and alcohol prevention, intervention, and treatment programs and services. So in that perspective, only counties are eligible to receive these settlement funds if the county elects to join the settlement, and that's what we're going to talk about this morning. What it means to Center County is a sum over a period of 18 years of $1,739,087. So it is significant funding that we would be receiving, and we will, if you choose to sign on to the settlement, we'll then turn to work with our offices of drug and alcohol and other program offices to consider what programming might be appropriate to receive funds for this purpose. So there are a lot of steps in this process. I'll turn it over to Betsy to walk through what those documents look like.
So yeah, we've got multiple documents here, and I just want to point out for the benefit, I think the commissioners are aware of this, but for those who might be viewing, that the amount coming to Center County was based upon a formula that, and let me just step back and say that the Attorney General and a series of municipal entities, other governmental entities were on this committee that set forth what is now in this trust document. Some of those were larger entities that had actually filed their own lawsuits, and others were smaller, so there was a nice cross-section of individuals who set up the trust agreement, which will be so ordered by the court. And one of the documents we will sign is, if the commissioners approve, is a document to participate in that trust settlement. But the calculation of the amounts that go to each respective county, and in this instance, counties will receive direct money, litigating municipalities will receive some money, and then the Commonwealth will receive an amount that will go into a trust to be used solely for opioid abatement. Notably, unlike what happened with the litigation over cigarettes and related nicotine products, which allowed money to come back to the states and be used in a variety of ways, this money will all be used only for opioid abatement. And that's part of the reason in the trust agreement that it specifically says the monies are paid out to the counties, or what they call CSAs, because those are the individuals or entities that conduct programming to deal with this issue, as opposed to a local municipality or something of that nature. So that's why the funds go here. But the calculation is based upon all overdose deaths in a county, opioid-related hospitalizations, naloxone administrations, and then a adjusted MAE or total opioids dispersed within the county. And so Center County, there are counties around us that are receiving more funds, but that's because their metrics were much higher than ours. So I think it's, if people look at this online, I just want them to understand it had nothing to do with your population. It had much more to do with your incidence of opioid matters. So you have a resolution in front of you, Resolution 17 of 2021, which, if you approve that, would authorize the county to enter into 2 settlement agreements, one with, as Margaret said, the distributor group, which includes 3 distributors, Amerisource, Bergen, Cardinal Health, and McKesson. Notably, a lot of the big pharma folks are not in that. Please know that this doesn't do anything with the Purdue Pharma settlement and some other things that, of course, is now back into a certain bailiwicks. It's just these individuals or individual companies and any lawsuits related to them. And then what Margaret referred to as the J&J or Janssen Group also received a settlement. I think the reasoning behind that, in terms of the states agreeing to enter into this, is because J&J has already been immersed in litigation involving the talc matter that's forced them into reorganization. The likelihood of getting much more out of them sadly may not happen. So there are two agreements, the distributor settlement agreement, the Janssen settlement agreement, and then the last is our sign-on to this trust and allocation order, which sets forth how the funds will be allocated. As part of that, we are obligated to communicate with any municipality in our county that it fits a certain set of criteria. One is a litigating municipality. There were no litigating municipalities in Center County. We are not a litigating county, so that easily captures that requirement. And then there are 4 municipalities that have over 10,000 in population. We have already communicated with their managers on this issue. They are communicating internally. Notably, 3 of them, College, Patton, and Ferguson, had previously signed on nationally to the settlement, but have not separately litigated. And so I think we're just waiting to hear back from the borough on their, and they were following up with their solicitor. But I think they are on board to help the county get these funds. Those 4 municipalities or any of these non-litigating municipalities would not be entitled to get any of these funds under the settlement. And if they didn't sign on, it would simply reduce the amount coming back to the county. That will go into what's called the state bucket. The state bucket is to be used by the Commonwealth for specific grants and programs. That hasn't been developed yet, but that will be another source of possible funds that I think our county could capture, especially in light of the block grant programming we've been doing and our regular involvement with the Commonwealth. So with that, I'll be quiet for a moment and let you ask any questions you may have, any of you, about the process or the settlements.
Okay. Thank you very much, Margaret and Betsy. Any questions, comments?
The Attorney General came to the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania Convention, to remember last month, and described it in detail. Seems like a reasonably fair way of going about it, and I know the counties appreciate the fact that something like 70% of the funding goes directly to counties, because it's the county drug and alcohol departments and the organizations we work with for treatment, which is where the majority of the actual work on an individual level for the opioid epidemic happens. And I know Commissioner Dersham has been very active with several organizations here in Center County that work to reduce the effects of the opioid epidemic. So I'm in favor.
Well, I think it comes out to what, about $100,000 a year, essentially. I will tell you, I think the actions of some of these companies and the medical profession involved is reprehensible. How you can look at any opioid, natural or man-made, and determine that it is safe to broadcast, prescribe to so many people. And I know I'm probably going to step on some toes here, but I don't care. This was a totally avoidable crisis that I think extends beyond just these distributors and these companies here. But that being said, I do believe the culpability is clear, and they've obviously admitted to that culpability. So as we move forward, but I hope there's some lessons learned here, and I hope in the sake of medical science that we don't just run willy-nilly across the landscape again and prescribe very, very dangerous medication. So I will support this, but I think it should have been more.
No, I think we all concur that this is the reality is that nothing can bring back the people that we've lost. We've lost over the time period where they did this formula. We don't want to become numb to the fact that this formula does take into account people who have unfortunately overdosed and died due to opioids, and nothing can bring them back. But this at least allows us to do more treatment, more prevention, and assist. But it is a very sobering reality that this is what we're confronted with, and unfortunately, these companies, we can't get more out of them. But this is the decision before us, and I think that the big thing is that if we don't do this and we decide to maybe try to get more elsewhere through the courts, there's no guarantee from that standpoint as well. And so it's one of those decisions we don't make lightly. But I appreciate what you're saying, Commissioner. This
Opioids are the number one killer
Absolutely.
in our country right now.
Absolutely.
And it's more than gun violence, more than automobile accidents. It is really just, it has destroyed so many families and impacted so many individuals that it's incomprehensible, so.
Okay. So with this, again, this motion is quite, it's taking a lot into account, but again, we have the resolution, we have the two participation in two settlements, the trust, and then also this intrastate allocation form as well. So it would be a large motion, but do we have any comments or further questions for Betsy before we entertain the motion? Okay. We would then look for a motion.
Motion to add the opioid settlement, items 1 through 5, to next week's consent agenda.
We'll second that.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on this? Anything else to add, Margaret or Betsy, on this? Okay, all right. Hearing none and no public comment on this as well, just want to make sure. Okay, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried, and we will have that on next week's consent agenda. Okay, thank you again, Betsy. Thank you. Okay, right, we have, next, we're going to welcome up Jeff Warren, and Jeff is going to talk through a grant that we were receiving for emergency management. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning. I'd ask the Board of Commissioners to consider endorsing the State Homeland Security Grant Program Agreement between the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency and the counties in the South Central Mountain Regional Counterterrorism Task Force. The grant total is $450,804 for a period of September 1st, 2021 through November 11th, 2024. Now, we get this grant every year, but we get 3 years to expend it. And the purpose of the task force, which is overseen by the county EMCs, is to provide training and equipment for the first responders within those counties.
Jeff, in terms of any of the anticipated expenditures, is there any equipment that you wanted to highlight or any programs that this will fund specifically, or is that still to be determined?
Correct.
Okay.
And I want to remind the commissioners that these, because a lot of our signatures are electronic, that these are actual ink signatures that we need to return to FEMA.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay.
So this is okay if we put it on the consent agenda? It doesn't have to be acted on today?
No, this can be acted on next week.
Okay.
All right. Seeing no further discussion, is there a motion?
Motion to add the State Homeland Security Grant Program Agreement with the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency to next week's consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 The motion is carried. Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, we have today's consent agenda in front of us. Before we look for a motion to approve, we do have some items on here that we might want further discussion on. Is there anything that we wanted to discuss further before we look for a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Item F.
Okay. All right. Yes.
I guess my question is, what are we going to do with this data once we collect it? What's the plan?
Sure. And this would be for the vaccination information and the testing of negative, positive tests that people would have. Essentially, it would be much like we have currently, where as negative and positive tests are sent in, they're kept in the HR office and in an email, or as Kristen mentioned at our Thursday work session, basically an Excel spreadsheet. But in this instance, it would live in a secure database that Qualtrics would have, and we would have access to it. So we would still keep the data relevant there.
So
Yeah.
we would be, this is a mandatory program that people have to say whether they're vaccinated or not?
Correct, yes. And so it would be a new policy for the county. This is not the policy, but this is a program that would help us implement the policy. And the policy would essentially be that employees would opt to either receive their vaccination, get fully vaccinated, or in lieu of that, they would be required to test weekly.
I can't support it. I believe that either everybody needs to be tested universally, or we need to take temperature checks daily, everybody coming in the building, but I just can't support this. So.
So I would and this is the same question I had offered on Thursday, what would be your strategy going forward?
My strategy going forward would be temperature checks of all employees coming into the building, because in my humble opinion and what I understand to be correct, is that individuals that have been vaccinated can still carry the virus. And I don't think that it's fair to bifurcate our employees and expect a different outcome. So that's pretty much where I'm at. So I would support temperature checks for everybody entering the building.
So the challenge with temperature checks is that many individuals who have COVID-19 are asymptomatic. So essentially, it would miss, and studies have shown, and I sent an email out yesterday on this, that studies have shown that unfortunately, just doing temperature checks misses a lot of folks, and it would not be it's a good step. It's not a bad thing to do, but it's not in lieu of testing, it's not effective. And then in addition to the comments about individuals that are vaccinated could spread COVID-19, that is true, but it's it's less, if you're unvaccinated, you spread it more easily than if you're vaccinated.
Is that true of the new variants?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
My suggestion is, I think we need to treat everybody under a uniform policy, and that's where I'm at. So.
But I just would point out that I think your strategy of not doing this would be, it would actually, I think, potentially harm the health of our employees and our citizens if we keep on the course we're going. And the course we're going is, if we don't have additional testing, I think that, so I would argue this policy would actually make it more, our employees healthier, their families healthier, our citizens safe. And I think if we don't do anything, it's actually putting their health and the residents who come into our building in more jeopardy.
Let's test everybody then.
I don't know if you can, again, we have a great outlet with Tom Charles. If we want to discuss with Tom Charles, professionals at Penn State, I think that'd be a great way to go about maybe asking some questions. I don't know if that would be a strategy that makes sense at this point. Yeah.
Well, it's the one that I feel I can support.
Okay. So you would support just to be clear, you would support testing everybody?
Yep.
Okay, mandatory testing.
I think either you test everybody or you test no one.
Okay.
So, and I believe the same with the temperature checks. So, if you're really concerned about people, because when they leave this building, they're going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to live their lives, and whether the impact of COVID touches us or not, I do believe under the Omicron variant that everybody's probably going to have or be exposed to that strain at some point. It's an incredibly virulent disease as far as its spread. So, and to your point, oftentimes it's asymptomatic, but just because I'm tested today doesn't mean I'm not in contact with it tomorrow and carry it back into the building. So there's no perfect solution here. So it's a matter of, what we all consider reasonable, and I think the folks that are vaccinated can carry the disease just as able as the ones that don't. So that's my understanding, and if somebody wants to correct me, I'll listen. But at this point, that's how I feel.
So our current policy, which we all supported, essentially says that if you come in contact with COVID-19 and you're vaccinated, you can come to work sooner.
Well, I'm not totally certain that doesn't have to be refreshed under this. Again, the medical science of this has changed dramatically with this latest variant, and I think 70% of the folks in our country right now that have COVID-19 or COVID-19 have the Omicron variant, and I'm very concerned that we're heading down a path of kind of alienating folks that have chosen for one reason or another, whether medically or personally, not to be vaccinated, and that's what I struggle with.
I see. So I'll just put this out there. This specific agreement today that with Qualifications, which would allow us to do the testing management in the way that you're framing it, where everybody would be tested, we would still need this, right?
We would, well, at some point, but before I approve this agreement, I want to know what the policy is for moving forward, and that's what I'm struggling here with, is we're kind of getting the cart in front of the horse, I believe, here.
I think the challenge is, unfortunately, we don't have time. I don't believe we have time to wait any longer to get this policy in place.
And I recognize your ability to support this, and
Yes,
if
yeah,
it moves
yeah,
forward, then
yeah,
that's fine,
yeah.
I get it.
Okay. Yeah, please.
Well, whether we end up with a 2-level policy of vaccination, and I suppose 3-level if you're vaccinated but you don't want to tell us, and you do testing, or we end up testing everybody, say, weekly, we're still going to need this software, because with 560 or so employees, it is well beyond the capacity of spreadsheets to handle this in an organized fashion. I think this is a case where if we're going to move forward, we need both the cart and the horse. And it's going to take some time to order the software, get it up, do some training on it, do some testing on it, and ensure how we're going to handle very quickly maybe 100, 200 people, or as many as 560 people, all starting on the same week. So I'm fine with moving forward.
I get where you're coming from. We just look at this under 2 different lenses. That's okay.
Okay. All right, so we would look for a motion then to approve this week's consent agenda.
Motion to approve this week's consent agenda.
I will second that. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. One opposition. The consent agenda is approved. Okay. All right. We have no liquid fuels fee for use presentation or conversation, but we will turn it over to Margaret to discuss a little bit about the 2020 county meeting schedule.
Yes, it's that time of year when we look at the meeting schedule for the next calendar year. We are required to post this publicly so that all of our meetings are, the times and days are aware, the public is aware of these dates. I think that there are just a few changes on here, but pretty much intact. The meetings that fall under the county meeting schedule, of course, our Board of Commissioners, Salary Board, Board of Assessment Appeals, Board of Assessment and Revision of Taxes, Board of Elections, Criminal Justice Advisory Board, Employee Benefits Trust, Finance Committee, Prison Board of Inspectors, Records Improvement Committee, Retirement Board, and our myriad of work sessions that pop up from throughout the year. So you each have a copy of this attached to the back of your agenda today.
Okay. Are there any questions or anything that, any specific meeting that we wanted to pull out for further edits? There's not really much changes over last year, correct?
That is correct.
We're good? Okay, all right. So,
I would point out
Yes.
the one change of substance is the Criminal Justice Advisory Board meetings typically used to be held at the correctional facility.
okay.
They are going to move to the Willow Bank Emergency Operations Center during this time when we're really trying to not have people going in and out of the correctional facility. So that it probably is the largest change on here, and the time of that has changed as well. So.
okay, all right, that's good to note. Thank you, Margaret. Okay, so we would look for a motion to approve the 2022 county meeting schedule.
Motion to approve the 2022 county meeting schedule.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting schedule. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion is carried. Okay. And then to Commissioner Higgins for a check run.
Sure. We have a check run in the amount of, about an average check run of $1,487,997.54. Since it's the holidays and there are a number of checks in here relating to foster parents and foster children, just wanted to make the plea again that if you have it in your heart here over the holidays to help out a child who, for no fault of their own, is not able to be cared for by their parents or does not have parents and did not have a kin relationship who was able to step up and help them. We need foster parents. We have training. We have support groups. It's easier than you think, and it'll enrich your lives. So would like to make the motion to approve the check run dated December 17th.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 The motion is carried. Okay. We'll go to Commissioner Dershowitz for a voter registration report.
Okay, we have 105,146 registered voters in Center County as of this morning. There are 44,100 Democratic registrants, 146 Green Party, 673 Libertarian, 14,149 no affiliation, and 42,203 Republican registrants, which leads all others at 3,875 registered voters. And of that 3,875, there is one Nationalist Party member, and I'd like to recognize the Nationalist Party here in Center County because they have one registration. Okay, we have precinct number 48 as our feature this morning. It's Ferguson North 2, Ward 2, and they vote at Disciple Makers on Science Park Road. And in the last election, there were a total registration of 1,274 voters, 446 cast ballots, which led to a percentage turnout of 35.01%. And I want to thank again Disciple Makers for allowing us to use their facility for voting. The folks that made it happen in Precinct 48, the judge of election is John McKinstry. Minority inspector is Jason Stover. Majority inspector is Ella Underwood. And then the clerks were Samantha Grieb, Evan Brockler, and Joshua Wright. So there you have it.
Give them a big thank you for working the polls.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner. And then we'll go into announcements. We do want to remind everybody that we will be closed this Friday, December 24th, and Monday, December 27th, in observance of Christmas. Do we have any executive sessions to report or hold, Margaret?
So there are no executive sessions to report. However, the Board of Commissioners does need to meet in executive session before we adjourn today to discuss 2 personnel matters.
Thank you, Margaret. All right, we do not have any members of the press here, so we will look for a motion to go into executive session for personnel matters.
Motion to go into executive session for personnel matters at 10:42.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 We are in executive session. Thank you, everybody.